Magandang hapon Luzon, maayong hapon sa mga kasama natin sa Visayas and sa Mindanao. And I'm Dave, and welcome to this afternoon learning session on COVID-19 vaccination. Be the key to herd immunization. So as you have seen in our introduction, we've added some videos on vaccination and COVID-19 FAQ for us to be more informed in fighting this pandemic. Together, we are making a difference that has stopped the spread of COVID-19. Sabi nga sa ating poster, #bend the curve, get vaccinated. Alright, so before we start, let me acknowledge our participants from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, specifically in General Santos, Davao, Laguna, Cavite, and here in Metro Manila. So thank you for joining us again in this learning session. So this afternoon, our 2-hour learning session primarily would give us the guide, or would guide us to decide if these vaccines are safe and its effects towards our body. Now join us to learn and demystify COVID-19 vaccines as our partner in Cocolife Healthcare guide us to be more aware and informed. So like our series of webinars, I'm sure this will answer all of our questions regarding the term here. Yung word talaga dito is yung doubts regarding the available vaccines in our country. So as we remember, we had a survey that was April of this year and February. So Feb and April, we had that survey. So yun, I presented it before. So just to remind us, respondents who answered yes, that they are planning to get vaccinated, was only, this was Feb, 18.4%. Then it increases to 47%. While respondents who answered not yet sure or undecided was from 61.8% down to 39.3%. So ano meron doon sa months na yun? February was the time that we are expecting to receive the vaccines in our country. Comes April, eto na, meron na tayong 1.40 million Filipinos who were vaccinated. So from that data, we see how it affects, yung effects ng vaccine sa body ng ating mga kababayan. So that's actually one of the reasons why we are having this learning session, para mawala yung ating mga kuro-kuro, the doubts on the vaccines itself. Okay, so today we wanted to hear directly from an expert to answer and enlighten on our worries. So I encourage everyone to comment down below for all of our questions. So few house rules before I introduce our resource speaker. So questions will be entertained after the presentations. Just type in your questions in the comment section below. All right, so to guide us with the topics to be discussed this afternoon on COVID-19 vaccination, be the key to herd immunization. So he took up his pre-med course at Emilio Aguinaldo College in Manila with a degree in Bachelor of Science in Physical Therapy. He then graduated with a degree of Doctor of Medicine at De La Salle University at Dasmariñas, Cavite. Currently, he is the Wellness Supervisor of Cocolife Healthcare. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Alexander Anacin.
Everyone, ANR Unlimited. Okay, so let's start. Okay, let me just share my slide. Just a moment, please.
Well, Doc Alex is preparing yung presentation. Si Doc actually, siya yung nagbibigay ng lecture sa atin on the previous year sa old office natin sa Makati. So ngayon, kakaiba naman, virtual na tayo ngayon. So it's actually a good thing that we have this kind of platform where we can still learn. There we go. So we now have the presentation of Doc.
Okay, so once again, good afternoon, ANR Unlimited, and good afternoon, Philippines. In behalf of our partner broker from Omni, would like to thank you for making Cocolife your partner in healthcare. So this afternoon, we're going to talk about COVID vaccines, and these are the coverages, which is quite
Doc, sorry.
long.
Pwede
Uh,
mag-request.
uh,
Sorry.
yes,
Doc, pwede mag-request ng video para makita ng ating participants.
video ng alin po?
Video nyo po.
Okay. Sandali ah.
As mentioned by Doc, our representative from Omni will also be joining us later on for our question and answer. There we go. Thank you, Doc.
Okay, so moving forward, okay, so this is why we need the vaccine. Remember, there are two worlds, the clinical trial world and the real world. So all data currently show short-term efficacy as the vaccines in development have been barely out of gathering data. And many are still a combination of ongoing phase 2, phase 3 studies, and none have been approved commercially. None have long-term efficacy data. So just remember, this is a choice between getting COVID-19 first or any vaccine available. Okay, so it's a race. Okay, so remember safety in every stage of the clinical trial. Safety is important. When significant safety issues are detected in any part of the clinical trial, they are unable to progress further. Phase 3 trials include more patients, and the degree of safety for these types of trials makes it unlikely that any severe reaction occurring more than 1 out of every, say, 10,000 will be missed. Okay? And the length of follow-up ranges from short-term to 2 months versus long-term to more than a year. And the reason for emergency use authorization is the minimum clinical efficacy of at least 50% and minimum length of safety follow-up of at least 2 months. Okay, remember that in efficacy, the primary outcome is vaccine efficacy. This is to determine whether a vaccine works or not and how well it works. So we have clinical efficacy, which demonstrate a clinical disease versus the asymptomatics, and the prevention of severe disease, in which the progression to severe disease and prevention of death. Herd immunity, we heard we heard a lot about it. It needs to prove that there's transmission interruption. Now, this is difficult to achieve as you need to periodically swab asymptomatics and compare asymptomatic infection rates among those vaccinated versus the placebo. So herd immunity is difficult to demonstrate and takes a longer time to do. Okay, so far this is what the data shows. I think all the vaccines here shown are mostly approved, maybe except for Novavax, because I believe the one that has EUA here in the Philippines is the Barat type. Okay, as you can see, the numbers they're well and good, and Janssen only has a single dose given. Okay, so these are the considerations in vaccine procurement in our country. Again, number one is safety and efficacy, handling and storage issues, the ability to roll out the vaccine without hitches, meaning there can be and should not have any wastage, particularly in multi-dose vials. Okay, definitely we should have zero wastage since these vaccines are, well, nowadays they're kind of rare, and we shouldn't be wasting them anyway. And of course, the prioritization, who should receive the vaccines first. So as of now, the ones that are vaccinated are from A1 to A3. A1, the healthcare workers. A2, are elderlies, and A3 are those who have comorbidities. Future vaccinations include the A4, which are the economic frontliners, and the A5, which are the indigents. And there should be equity in procurement, appropriation, and vaccine rollout programs. And they need to ensure that patients complete the dosing requirements. Especially as Filipinos, we have very poor compliance. That's why I recommend Janssen and Janssen, since they only give a single dose of the vaccine. Some people are lost to follow-up, especially they're given the first dose of the vaccine. They no longer go out to get the second dose. Okay, and we also need to ensure that the programs can meet numbers enough to result in herd immunity. Okay, so some basic immunology. When a new pathogen or disease enters our body, it introduces a new antigen. And for every new antigen, our body needs to build a specific antibody that can grab onto the antigen and defeat the pathogen. So how did the vaccines help? Remember that a vaccine is a tiny, weakened, non-dangerous fragment of the organism and includes parts of the antigen. It's enough that our body can learn to build a specific antibody. Then if the body encounters the real antigen later, as part of the real organism, it already knows how to defeat it. Now, some vaccines require multiple doses given weeks or months apart. This is sometimes needed to allow to produce long-lived antibodies and development of memory cells. This way, the body is trained to fight the specific disease-causing organism, build up memory of the pathogen so that it can rapidly fight it if and when exposed in the future. So remember that a vaccine protects an individual, but when you vaccinate a community, it protects the whole community, even those who cannot be vaccinated. So as of now, the persons who cannot be vaccinated are those under the age of 18. But right now, especially in the US, they're already vaccinating persons as young as 12 years old and above. So when a lot of people in the community are vaccinated, the pathogen has a hard time circulating because most of the people it encounters are immune. The more people vaccinated, the less likely people who are unable to be protected by vaccines are at risk of even being exposed to the harmful pathogen. So just remember, no single vaccine provides 100% protection, and herd immunity does not provide full protection to those who cannot be safely vaccinated. But with herd immunity, these people have substantial protection because those around them are being vaccinated. Just remember, no one ever guaranteed 100% efficacy for any vaccine ever made. At most, they are at 95%. Now, so the question begs, is herd immunity possible for COVID-19? I believe that herd protection is a more suitable term. Right now, you're also hearing population protection. That's almost equal, basically the same as herd protection. Now, the reason why it's difficult to demonstrate herd immunity is because of the following. One, there should be an animal reservoir present in SARS-CoV-2. The one that's causing this pandemic. And then next, studies will need to be done later for patients that are not immunized, and this may take much longer and more expensive to do. Current clinical trials do not address whether there's interruption of transmission of SARS-CoV-2 and large asymptomatic population infected with SARS-CoV-2. And these are the endpoints for the clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccine. You're not seeing double. So the first is to prevent PCR-confirmed symptomatic COVID-19. And the next is to prevent PCR-confirmed symptomatic moderate or severe type of COVID-19 infection. It helps us reduce the chances of getting the disease, but More importantly, it assures us that COVID-19 cases would not be severe enough to require intensive care. Okay, so remember that the key ingredient in a vaccine is the antigen. It's either a tiny part of the disease-causing organism or a weakened, non-dangerous version, so your body can learn the specific way to fight it without getting sick. So aside from the antigen, a vaccine also contains preservatives, stabilizers, surfactants, residuals, diluent, and an adjuvant. Any one of these, aside from the antigen, you can be allergic to. So we already know about the antigen. Let's go now to the preservatives. Now, these prevent the vaccine from becoming contaminated once the vial has been opened. If it will be used for vaccinating more than one person. Single-dose vials usually do not have preservatives. And the most commonly used one is 2-phenoxyethanol. Now, stabilizers prevent chemical reactions from occurring within the vaccine. They keep the vaccine components from sticking to the vaccine vial. They can be made of sugars like like lactose and sucrose. They can be also made of amino acids like glycine, gelatin, and proteins like recombinant human albumin and derived from yeast. Now, surfactants prevent settling and clumping of elements in the liquid form of the vaccine. Residuals are tiny amounts of substances used during manufacturing or production of vaccines that are not active ingredients in the complete vaccine. They are measured as parts per million or per billion. Diluents are liquid used to dilute a vaccine to the correct concentration immediately prior to use, sterile water being the most common. While an adjuvant improves immune response by keeping the vaccine at the injection site a bit longer or by stimulating local immune cells. So remember that every vaccine under development first goes through a preclinical phase, meaning animals are first tested to evaluate safety and potential to prevent disease. If there's an immune response, then human clinical trials ensue. So during the phase 1 clinical trial phase, young healthy volunteers, they assess the safety, the generate an immune response. During the phase 2 clinical trial phase, several hundred volunteers are needed to further assess safety and ability to general immune response, and they also do dose finding study. During the phase 3, there are thousands of volunteers are compared to a similar group of people who did not get the vaccine but received a comparator product. Remember that during phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials, they are double-blinded, meaning those who receive the vaccine, they can be divided into two, those that receive the actual vaccine and those that didn't receive the actual vaccine, and they do not know whether they receive it, the actual vaccine or not. So that's what double-blinded means. So reviews of efficacy and safety for regulatory and public health policy approvals, in which the officials in each country closely review the study data and decide whether to authorize the vaccine for use. So a vaccine must be proven to be safe and effective across a broad population before it will be approved and introduced into a national immunization program. The bar for vaccine safety and efficacy is extremely high, recognizing that vaccines are given to people who are otherwise healthy and specifically free from the illness. So there's also this phase 4 clinical trial phase in which monitoring is ongoing even after the vaccine is introduced, using systems to monitor safety and effectiveness. They keep track of the vaccine impact and safety as more people use it over a longer time frame. The data obtained adjust policies for vaccine use to optimize impact and allow vaccine to be safely tracked throughout its use. Once a vaccine is in use, it must continuously be monitored to make sure it continues to be safe. So this is the journey of a vaccine, the cold chain. The vaccine must be kept in an appropriate temperature, otherwise it will be rendered ineffective. Okay, so it's refrigerated to its proper temperature, whether transported by plane, trucks, or even before it reaches the actual patient. So once a vaccine has reached pre-approval stage after clinical trials, it is assessed by a regulatory body for compliance with quality, safety, and efficacy criteria. During global health emergencies, the WHO Emergency Use Listing Procedure, the EUL, may be used to allow emergency use of the vaccine. The EUL is a fast-track, rigorous process designed to bring impactful products to all those in need as quickly as possible on a time-limited basis based on a risk versus benefit evaluation. Now, you will hear a lot about risk versus benefit evaluation. What is the risk? The risk is acquiring the COVID infection, while the benefit, if you get the vaccine, you'll be protected by at least 95%. So remember that no company works independently to complete development plans for a vaccine. In the US, they have Operation Warp Speed, in which researchers and developers work on several different phases in parallel to speed up results. It is the scale of the financial and political commitments that allow this accelerated development to take place. Nations and international health organizations work together through COVAX to invest in development capacity upfront to streamline the process, as well as to ensure equitable distribution of vaccines. Now, with regards to packaging, vaccines are bottled in single or multiple doses and packaged for safe cold storage and transport. The packaging should be able to withstand extreme temperatures and risk in transportation. That's why glass is used, because glass is durable and able to maintain integrity in extreme temperatures. With regards to storage, remember that if it's too hot or too cold, it renders the vaccine less effective or even inactive. At the wrong temperature, it is unsafe for use. Most vaccines require refrigerated storage between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Some require negative 20 degrees Celsius, while others even at the ultra low of negative 70 degrees Celsius. That's why bioreps are required in most cases. Now, with regards to shipping, um, they should be able to maintain cold chain and ship using special equipment like refrigerated semi-trucks from airport to warehouse cold room, portable ice boxes from cold room to regional centers, then stored in the ref. Portable ice boxes to transport goods to local areas for vaccination campaign, and of course, quality control. Now, we need to differentiate efficacy versus effectiveness. Efficacy is the degree to which a vaccine prevents disease and possibly also transmission under ideal and controlled circumstances. Uh, Comparing a vaccinated versus a placebo group. So that's what happens during clinical trials. While effectiveness refers to how it performs in the real world. Remember, I told you earlier there's a clinical trial world and the real world. Real world effectiveness is generally lower than clinical trial efficacy in most cases because clinical trial participants are a selected population of motivated individuals. So where are we now in the vaccines? The only column you will just look is under the approved column, in which 7 vaccines are approved for full use under emergency use authorization, namely Pfizer, Sinovac, AstraZeneca, Sputnik V, Janssen, Bharat Biotech, and Moderna. So now let's go to the first type of COVID vaccines, the messenger RNA vaccines, as exemplified by Pfizer and Moderna. So in mRNA vaccines, spike proteins are targets for potential vaccines and treatments. Both Moderna and Pfizer is based on the virus genetic instructions for building the spike proteins. The Pfizer vaccine requires 2 injections given 21 days apart to prime the immune system well enough to fight off the coronavirus. Last March, Pfizer announced that its coronavirus vaccine will protect people for up to 6 months after the second dose. Moderna's vaccine requires 2 injections given 28 days apart to prime the immune system well enough to fight off the coronavirus. And their study shows that the vaccine offers protection for at least 6 months. So now let's go to the adenovirus-based vaccines as exemplified by AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and Gamaleya as exemplified by Sputnik V. Now, here, the DNA is inside an adenovirus. The gene for the coronavirus is added to another virus. Adenovirus typically causes colds or flu-like symptoms. It can enter cells. Now, this technology is also used for Ebola, HIV, and Zika vaccines. Since DNA is not as fragile as RNA, they have a tougher protein coat which protects the genetic material inside. Remember that it can enter the cell, but it cannot replicate inside it. Okay? The AstraZeneca vaccine requires 2 doses given 4 weeks apart to prime the immune system to fight off the coronavirus. Now, Johnson & Johnson is testing a single dose of the vaccine, but because its phase 3 trial results have not yet been released, researchers don't know how well the vaccine might work or how long its protection might last. So now let's go to Sputnik V. Some researchers worry that our immune system could respond to an adenovirus vaccine by making antibodies against it, which would render a second dose ineffective. To avoid this, the Russian researchers used one type of adenovirus, the AD26, for the first dose and another, the AD5, for the second. And the results are in almost 22,000 adults randomly assigned, given 2 doses of the vaccine, resulting to 4 deaths which are not vaccine related. So now let's go to the protein-based vaccines as exemplified by Novavax. Modified spike gene teaches the immune system to make antibodies to the spike protein. They inserted the gene into the baculovirus and allow it to infect moth cells. The infected cells produce spike proteins that spontaneously join together to form spikes, as they do on the surface of the coronavirus. Now, this is the same method of growing and harvesting virus proteins for influenza and HPV vaccines. HPV vaccines are what we use for cervical cancer. Now, Novavax can trigger another kind of protection by destroying infected cells. When a coronavirus invades infected cells, they put fragments of its spike protein on their surface, and the antigen-presenting cells can activate a type of immune cell called a killer T cell. It recognizes coronavirus infected cells and destroys them before they have a chance to produce new viruses. So Novavax vaccine would be easier to distribute and store than the vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna. While those vaccines must be kept frozen, Novavax can stay stable for up to 3 months in a refrigerator. But if the vaccine does turn out to be effective, scientists won't know for sure how long it provides protection, and its UK phase 3 results yields an 89.3% efficacy. Okay, so now let's go to the inactivated coronavirus vaccine as exemplified by Sinovac and Bharat Biotech. So large stocks of the coronavirus are doused with a chemical called beta-prophylactone. The compound disabled the coronavirus by bonding to their genes. Inactivated coronavirus could no longer replicate, but their proteins, including spike, remained intact. They drew off the inactivated viruses and mixed them with a tiny amount of adjuvant, which is usually aluminum-based, to stimulate the immune system to boost its response to a vaccine. Now, this technology has been used for over a century, with Jonas Salk using it to create polio vaccine and other vaccines like rabies and hepatitis A. Remember that the virus used here are dead, and they can be injected without causing COVID-19. Once inside the body, some of the inactivated viruses are swallowed up by a type of immune cell called the antigen-presenting cell. These cells tear the coronavirus apart and display some of its fragments on its surface. The helper cell may detect the fragment. If the fragment fits into one of its surface proteins, the T cell is activated and helps recruit other immune cells to respond to the vaccine. So COVID-19 vaccination will help protect you from getting COVID-19. You may have some side effects, which are normal signs that your body is building protection. And these side effects may affect your ability to do daily activities, but they should go away in a few days. Some people have no side effects. Now, the more common side effects on the arm where you got the shot, there's pain, redness, swelling. Throughout the rest of your body, you may have tiredness, headache, muscle pain, chills, fever, and nausea. You should call your doctor. Well, in most cases, discomfort from pain or fever is a normal sign that your body is building protection. But if the redness or tenderness where you got your shot gets worse after 24 hours, you should call your doctor. If your side effects are worrying you or you do not seem to be going away after a few days, or if you get a COVID-19 vaccine, you think you might be having a severe allergic reaction after leaving the vaccination site, seek immediate medical care. Okay, so why do we have a high rate of vaccine hesitancy? Well, remember years ago we had this dengue scare. Nobody's been prosecuted. Okay, some of us even, well, it's only in the Philippines where dengue is outlawed. Okay, some of us even go to nearby Singapore just to have this vaccine. Okay, and it can be due to lack of information, misinformation, especially now in this age of social media where fake news are, well, were available left and right. So you should be more discerning in getting your information. And of course, there's no long-term study yet regarding these vaccines. Remember, these vaccines were developed for a short-term period. Okay, basically, we're still under phase 3 clinical trials, and you may label this an experimental drug of sort. Okay, so well, just remember we have viral vectors as exemplified by AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. We have the DNA types as exemplified by Pfizer, Moderna, and we have the RNA as exemplified by Novavax, the protein-based vaccines, and the killed or inactivated virus vaccines developed by Sinovac. Okay, so here are your list of vaccines. The only one that's not hasn't been approved for EUA is the last column, Novavax, while the rest, like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Sinovac, Sputnik V, Janssen, Biotech, and Moderna have been used here in the Philippines for emergency use authorization. And these are its differences. Okay, now with regards to the variants, we know that the clinical trials were conducted before the UK variant, and other variants of concerns were starting to circulate. Now, this study will be doing genomic sequencing of the virus to determine the prevalence of these variants, but we can assume that at least a significant proportion of the cases in the study that were due to the UK variant and other new variants, which reinforce the conclusion that these vaccines are highly effective even in the presence of these new variants. Meaning, well, remember, nothing beats the original. The original is what we call the wild type. These are just the variants. The UK, South Africa, Brazil, and India. The only difference is these variants are more transmissible, meaning more people will get sick, but still, basically, the batting averages for getting COVID-19 is 95%. You will have a mild case. 5% you may develop into a severe type of COVID-19 infection. Okay, so well, these are well, you cannot be vaccinated if you're less than 18, if you have severe allergy after your first dose, or you have allergy in any components of the vaccine. Remember, aside from the antigen, we have these diluent, etc. Okay. Now, the vaccine can be delayed if you were exposed to a COVID-19 patient for the last 2 weeks. If you're a treated COVID-19 patient, nowadays, if you have fully recovered from the COVID infection, like you have a negative swab test, you can get vaccinated. If you're 3 months pregnant, especially during the first trimester, that is where organs are formed, okay, you may get vaccinated on your 4th month, but not during your first 3 months of pregnancy. If you're a recipient of plasma or monoclonal antibodies, you have to wait for 90 days. And then if you have any of the symptoms, similar to COVID, you may need to recover yourself first before getting vaccinated. Or if you have, you need to wait for 2 weeks. If you, for example, you've recently vaccinated yourself with the flu vaccine or pneumonia vaccine. Okay, you have to wait for 2 more weeks to get vaccinated for COVID. Now, these are what's needed. Well, you need medical clearance if you're drinking steroids, if you have autoimmune disease, you're an HIV patient, you're a cancer patient, you're an organ transplant patient, or if you're a bedridden patient, you need clearance from a doctor to get the vaccine. And yes, you can get the vaccine, but you need to be careful if you have problems with bleeding, or if you're taking anticoagulants, especially heparin. Remember, during the vaccination process, the first part is the screening. The doctor then may decide that you won't get vaccinated on that day, but you may get it later. Or if you have a severe allergy, so you will be assessed whether you can get vaccinated or not. And if you have allergies in food, eggs, or medications, you will be assessed. If you have food allergy, that's the least worrisome, meaning you can get vaccinated if you only have food allergy or if you have asthma. Okay, so that's the end of my lecture, and I'm sure you have your questions. Let me just stop sharing this.
Ayan. Thank you so much, Doc Alex, for this very informative learning session. All right, to also, before we gear towards our question and answer, I'll also be inviting our representative from Omni. We'll have Miss Che Ayed, and also, here we go. I'll also be adding our HR and admin manager, Miss Yvonne Bautista, for our question and answer. Link to my ACES. There we go. All right, so I think we are already complete. So we can, yeah, go direct to our questions. There we go. Miss Yvonne, good afternoon.
After
Good
naman,
afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Doc. Afternoon, Doc. After. All right, Dave.
Okay, so good afternoon sa ating lahat ulit. So let me just check on the questions from our participants from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. There we go. For the first question, sir, have a good day. Any COVID vaccine ba is safe sa may mga seryosong sakit, especially sa may congenital heart disease? Thank you.
yes. Ano naman yan eh, like I said earlier, i-screen na naman yan eh. So whether you can get the vaccine right there and then or not. Okay? Ang i-advise lang, sana you'll be honest na if you have allergies or you have medical condition, just say it and ma-evaluate naman yan whether you can get the vaccine or not. Okay? Pero more likely, you'll get vaccinated. No?
No, okay. So, kailangan mo na talagang i-assess before yung vaccination process will be done kay, ano bang tawag doon? Kay patient. O doon sa
Yes.
individual na yun. Okay. Sir, karugtong, in connection with that, from congenital, since it's a vaccine, and if it's egg-based, pwede bang magpa-vaccine yung may mga allergy sa eggs?
Kanina mention ko food allergy. Kapag may mga food allergy, yan yung pinaka-least na worrisome you get vaccinated naman po. The least worrisome. More likely mababaccinate kayo na. Kasi food allergies, hindi naman ganun kagrabe. Unlike ang mga wina-watch out natin, yung mga the severe type of allergies to the point na hindi makahinga, ganyan. Okay?
Same, so same din po sa may, kasi kanina may mga kasama kami nagtatanong dito sa office rather. They have yung allergy sa seafood. So with that said, Doc, so pwede pa rin even may
Pwede,
silang
personally, may seafood allergy din ako eh. Tapos nung in-screenan ako, sabi nga ng doktor, napaka-babaw ng problema mo. So, ayun, na-vaccinate ako that day and then.
Okay. And one of the question would be, when do you think these vaccines will be available in the market? I think ito yung pertains doon sa mga vaccines na na-present niyo po, Doc.
Okay. With regards to the market, baka next year or 2 years from now. Kasi as of now, lahat po ng vaccines na yan, for emergency use authorization. Meaning, bawal pa magbenta. Kaya nga nabalita mo nyo yung nagbebenta ng vaccine slot o kaya kung mga nagbebenta ng vaccine, talagang severe punishment of the law. Kasi kung tutusin, libre talaga yan eh. Okay?
Correct.
So maybe next year or 2 years from now pa. Ang pa nga, di ba, nagkakakulangan pa nga eh. Kahit na yung mga nabili na nga ng government, medyo natidelay yung pagdating eh. So, yun lang yung prediction ko. Maybe next year, 2 years from now. Okay?
If I may add, Dave, doon sa sinabi ni Doc, let's not wait for the vaccines to be available in the market kasi that means for sale na siya eh. You have to take in the vaccine now since it's being covered or subsidized by the government. Kaya nga nagkakaroon nung tranches from the discuss ni Doc from A1, yung mga health workers natin, senior citizen, A2, A3, and then of course A4, economical frontliners. So this is the best opportunity to get registered with their local government, no, para you can avail of the vaccines for free. Yun. So that's the reason why we had this learning session today also, so that you know the background of the vaccines, you know when to get it, you know the different types of vaccines we have, and at the same time, alam na natin na importante siya, kaya dapat magpa-register tayo sa government din para we can avail of it for free.
Exactly. And ayun, part din in connection with nabanggit ni Miss Yvonne. So we have to maximize talaga yung mga links. We had the policy naman na na-send out. So let's make use of it. I myself, nag-register ako. I'm from Manila. Ayun, so mabilis lang actually yung pag-register. It's just that we really just have to wait kung kailan tayo ipapatawag. Actually, since hindi pa tayo part ng priority group as A4. So we hope, syempre, tayo naman will be vaccinated eventually.
Yeah.
Sino sa inyo hindi pa nag-register? Yeah, I think one of the reason kung bakit hindi sila nag-register because of the doubts on the vaccine. So, guys, I encourage everyone, please comment here dun sa mga worries nyo para masagot, syempre, ng expert, a doctor, syempre, na talagang makakasagot ng mga ganong katanungan. Hindi yung we have yung mga nasa YouTube na conspiracy theory or whatnot. Dito na tayo, expert na talagang sasagot sa atin. Ayan. And there we go. Next question. Let me just show it here. If I have been vaccinated and after 6 months, the vaccine brand that I prefer is already available in the market, can I be vaccinated or how long should I wait?
Ganito lang po kanina sinabi ko ang good na protection for 6 months yung Pfizer Moderna kasi yun ang nila based on their research parang siguro kailangan ng booster dose after 6 months. The rest of the vaccines wala pang release na kung hanggang kailan yung effectiveness nila ganyan. Okay?
Okay.
Ano yan,
I
Dave?
gather
Parang ibig
some-
sabihin ba nung user dito, nung nag-message nito, if they can get another vaccine na, no? So parang yun yung sinasabi ni Doc na it would depend then on the type of vaccine and kung may i-release na rin silang info as to kailan yung susunod na vaccine nila dapat after they get one. Pero kung ang question is, yung first dose, ibang brand. Yung second dose, gusto ko ibang brand. Possible ba yon? Or better na talagang tapusin kung ano yung initial na vaccine na nabigay na sa'yo, Doc?
Okay, good question. Yung sinasabi niyo is regarding cross-vaccination wherein kunyari first dose, ibang brand, second dose, ibang brand din. Well, studies are being made kasi nga dahil kasi the reality is nagkakulangan talaga ng vaccines. Pero pa rin, wala pang results yung mga studies. Talagang pa rin. Remember, everything's fluid eh. Remember yung sinabi ko sa inyo na like for example, yung treated COVID patient, sabi nila una, delay muna for 90 days, huwag muna mabakunahan. Pero lately, nagpalit na basta fully recovered na, like for example, negative swab test na, pwede na magpabakuna. So kumbaga parang everything changes talaga. Depende na lang yan sa mga studies na ginagawa. So we'll just have to wait for the results for whether yung cross-vaccination will be good or not.
Okay. Thank you. Regarding naman dito, Doc, if let's say nabakunahan na ako, can I stop? It's actually a question na binigay sa akin kanina. Nabakunahan na ako. I'm done with the first and second dose. Can I stop wearing yung face shield and yung face mask?
Hindi pa rin po. Kasi well, ano pa rin you still have to protect yourself. Okay? Tuloy pa rin yung face mask, face shields, physical distancing. Okay? Well, kasi naman the reality is COVID is real, nandiyan pa rin yan. Marami pa rin well, pwede ka pa rin mahawa, di ba? Sabi ko nga, when you get vaccinated, may 5% chance ka pa rin kasi wala naman talagang 100% protection from the vaccines. So, ganun pa rin. This is the new normal. Okay? Until that day na talagang halos lahat fully vaccinated na, sige, baka naman medyo less na yung natin, yung protection natin. Okay?
Karugtong din, sabi nga ni Doc kanina po, di ba? It takes time before we reach yung tinatawag na herd immunity. So probably that's the only time we're looking dun sa side na will be stop using yung mask. Medyo matagal pa. Kung in reality, yun talaga yung titingnan natin. So we still have to we have to use yung face mask. And yun pala, Doc, last na. Sorry sa ulit nito. Yung face shield, may mga talaga nagkukulit. Like, actually, nakita ko rin siya sa Facebook. Sige, okay na ako sa face mask. How about yung face shield? Nahihirapan ako huminga. Can I stop wearing yung face shield?
Well, talagang only in the Philippines lang talaga yung face shield na yan Pero, well, sabi nila, when you wear your face mask, face shield, and you practice physical distancing, up to 99% yung protection mo
Actually.
So, kumbaga, while you're still in the Philippines, you have to follow what the Philippines wants us to do. Wala ka ng choice You go to the market, you have to wear your face mask and the face shield. But sabi mo nga kanina, Dave, diba? Medyo long shot pa din naman si herd immunity. But we have to be part of that. So, kaya kailangan simulan na rin natin na magpa-register at mag-avail ng vaccine program ng government.
Yes, exactly. If I may share din, kasi yung mother ko, actually nag-work din sa hospital. Yung drive nila doon, they have this kind of learning session. They even have yung nag-costume yung isang kasama nila as Batman just to show na naka-mask and naka-shield na ganun pa rin siya ka-importante. So, I'm not sure kung tama ba talaga yung naka-Batman talaga siya na costume. Yun yung parang gusto nilang i-push lalo din sa mga pasyente nila. Nag-ikot pa dun sa hospital. So, it's something, if you're in the Philippines, whatever the rule is, since we are here, we have to follow.
Okay.
Yes.
Ayan. Let's see. For our next question, ang availability ba ng specific ng vaccines, example, first dose, ginamitan ka ng Sinovac, consistent ba yung supply ng vaccines for the second dose?
Ideally, dapat ganun po. Okay? Kung ano yung first dose mo, same vaccine pa rin dapat yung para sa second dose mo.
Ayan. Sabi nga ni Doc, yung cross vaccination, hindi pa siya final. They're not yet done with the full study if it's possible talaga. Okay, for our next question, Doc, nawala.
Yes,
Doc, is this safe and applicable to lactating mom?
Pwede naman po. Ang sinabi ng bawal ay sa mga well, hindi naman bawal, more like pinagpaliban lang during the first 3 months of pregnancy. Pag lactating moms, wala namang contraindications for vaccination.
Okay. It's actually one comment from or participant. Baka sa first dose mo, ibang brand. Tapos sa second dose mo, ubus na. Pwede ba halo-halo na? Hindi naman siguro pwede yun, di ba?
Hindi pa. Kasi again, studies are still being made and ideally talaga uh, for multiple doses, especially yung first dose mo, same brand pa rin as your second dose. Okay.
Okay. So, let's see. Just check for other questions here.
Dave, I think I saw one. Medyo na-skip natin to. Why are we using Sinovac when it is not recognized by other countries?
Okay. Wow, politically loaded question.
Mabigat ba do?
Hindi naman, I think you have to ask, yung presidente natin talagang preferred niya yung mga Chinese eh. Okay? So talagang yun ang gusto niya eh. Wala naman tayong magagawa eh. Okay? Yun nga lang, medyo pumapalag tayo kasi makikita niyo naman, di ba? I'm sure you heard the news na last month talagang tinumog yung Pfizer vaccine. Tapos talagang habang nilalango yung Sinovac, talagang inaano nila na ito gusto ko eh, di ba? Parang gano'n. I mean, naman, it's still a free country, okay? So, I'll just keep it like that, okay?
Thank you, Doc. Doc, karugtong actually dyan. Kasi one of the reasons na siguro nakita ko lang is yung concern on the efficacy of the vaccines. Kasi di ba po may lumabas na si Pfizer is 90 something plus percent yung efficacy rate niya. Then we have si Sinovac is nasa 68 something or 70% yung efficacy rate niya. Anong meron po ba talaga dun sa efficacy rate? Ano yung tinatranslate niya? Na effective ba talaga si Pfizer? Probably that's the reason why doon nagpuntahan yung mga tao. Then nilangaw si Sinovac. Ano yung meron doon, Doc, sa efficacy?
Well, ganito yun eh. Kanina, dinefine ko yung difference between efficacy and effectiveness. So, yung efficacy has to do with the clinical trials. Pagdating sa effectiveness, yung real world. Kasi remember, during clinical trials, mga young, healthy volunteers yung talagang pinapabakuna. In the real world, talagang, di ba, remember, meron tayong elderly, may mga taong may comorbidities. Talagang iba talaga sa real world. Mas bumababa yung efficacy rates kapag compared sa effectiveness. Kaya siguro yun ang nakikita nila. Parang nakikita nila efficacy 50.4%. Siguro lalo pang bababa yan pag pagdating sa effectiveness. Okay? Pero the thing is, since you might label them na medyo rare yung mga vaccines, take the one that's available. Okay? Sabi ko nga, it's a race eh. You have to assess yung risk versus benefit evaluation, di ba? The risk of getting COVID-19 first or getting yourself vaccinated. Okay?
Thank you. Okay, let's see. We have this question. Also, can vaccines be covered by an HMO later on when everyone is done?
Okay. Sige. Hindi po ako yung I think I'm not the person na magsasagot po ng question.
Yes. Oo. Pero as of today, vaccine is not covered by the HMO. And we don't have any update. It will be covered in the future. We're hoping, but as of today, no update for the coverage.
Ayan. As Ms. Shenga mentioned, I think we can have another session for us regarding on the coverage, since I think not everyone would have the HMO. So we can actually have another learning session for that. Kung ano yung mga coverage that the HMO that we have.
Nakakat lang, Dave.
Yun nga.
Pero I think for future discussion yung kung covered na siya ni HMO because at this point, it's still being
Yes.
covered by a government 7 minutes.
Ayun, thank you. Loading isip ko hindi ko alam kung may karunong bumabasa. I'm not sure kung magbabato ba ako ng question. Well, it happens, mga gantong learning session, virtual session. Ayan. Next question. Kung sakali po ba ma-vaccine ang first dose at second dose hindi maka-attend, ano po mangyayari?
Well, one, masasayang yung vaccine mo kasi remember during the first dose, after nung 2 weeks ng first shot mo, doon pala nagde-develop ng antibodies. Now during the second dose na given, you'll nagiging fully vaccinated ka after 2 weeks pa ng second dose mo. Okay? So kung sayang naman kung hanggang first dose ka lang. Kaya nga recommended ko yung Janssen and Janssen kasi single dose lang. Kasi remember, tinakil ko kanina na talagang mahina talaga tayong sa compliance mga Pinoy. Gusto natin mga one shot lang, parang miski nga yung mga antibiotics natin kunyari magre-reseta kami ng once a day for 7 days. Mga pagdating ng third day, medyo okay na. Wala na, hindi na iinom niya. Okay? So, in the same way, yung mga vaccines na ganyan, parang for whatever reason na hindi makapunta ng second dose, sayang naman yung vaccine na na binigay during the first shot, di ba?
Yes.
Correct. So, dapat monitor talaga yung mga vaccines or yung schedule niya talaga nakaset na sa calendar para hindi masayang. Kasi kumbaga parang you're going back to square one if you missed the second dose of the vaccine.
Correct.
If I can add na lang din, Dave, regarding yun sa vaccination na rin naman din at the same time yung monitoring ng vaccine, there are different local governments na nakikipag-ugnayan sa mga quick service industry or mga fast food na if you present your vaccine pass, you get a certain discount, yung mga ganun. So, ibig sabihin talaga, gusto ng government na mabakunahan lahat, if not lahat talaga yung majority of the Filipinos. So from A1 and going now to A4. So magke-create pa daw sila ng iba't ibang either discounts or other privileges sa magpapabakuna or magpapa-COVID-19 vaccine. So yun din yung tignan kasi you get certain discount, you get either freebies on certain establishments. Pag may...
I think, tama ba? I'm not sure kung totoo yung nabasa ko sa Facebook na so, hindi talaga reliable kung if it's nasa Facebook. Yung pagta-travel, parang maging mandated, lalo na kung international, dapat vaccinated ka na before you can go out sa country. Is that true po, Doc? If ever may...
Well, wino-workout na yung tinatawag na vaccine passport okay? Parang at least if you're fully vaccinated, you can travel na. Okay? Well, depende na lang yan sa local government units o kaya country na na involved. Pero more likely in the works na yung vaccine passport.
Ayun. Sa mga excited na mag-travel, mga YOLO, mga friends natin ganun. Why not? We can, syempre, nandiyan naman. We can actually consider na hindi naman siya i-approve ng ating FDA if it's not, kumaga, found effective sa atin. So, yeah, we really have to consider those things. Ayan. And then, we'll have another question. Sir, pag vaccinated na ba, swab pa rin?
Well, kasi the only time na nagpapaswab ka, kunyari, when you're a close contact, para lang, kasi more likely if you're a close contact, mandatory 14 days quarantine ka. Pero kung talagang ayaw mo lang mawala sa isip mo na kung COVID positive ka, magpapaswab ka. Okay? Remember, ganito lang naman yan eh. If you're fully vaccinated, pwede ka pa rin magkaroon ng COVID-19 infection. And pwede ka rin maging mag-transmit ng COVID infection. Kasi nga since you're fully vaccinated, yung virus parang hindi na mag-e-effect sa iyo. Maghahanap na lang yan ng ibang host. Okay?
Yun, tama.
Kumbaga, Doc, ano ba yun? Parang the vaccine will prevent you from having severe, di ba, severe condition mo or severe symptoms na of the COVID-19.
Yes, ma'am. Na-discuss ko yun earlier. Ang first niya, hindi ka magkakasakit ng COVID-19. And more importantly, hindi ka magkakaroon ng severe type ng COVID-19 infection.
Exactly. Thank you, Doc. Ngayon, next question, on what category do we belong po, sir? So, I think we are category A4. So, just a recap, ano po ba yung, just for our other participants, A1 to A3, Doc?
Okay, A1, well, healthcare workers, yung mga frontliners, okay? A2, yung mga elderly. A3, yung mga may comorbidities, yung mga may medical conditions, okay? Tapos A4, economic frontliners. Kasi kaya talagang medyo malaki itong group na to. Ito naman, madalas mo maririnig, talagang we really need to boost the economy na talaga. Kailangan pagalawin na natin. Kung hindi, talagang mahirap naman yung palagi tayong nasa recession, di ba? Talagang kailangan nating magtrabaho at okay?
Correct. So if I can just add to that, so iba't ibang LGU and even provinces would have different status of the vaccination. So mostly in NCR, done na with A1 to A2 or ongoing din yung A3. For other provinces, like for example in Visayas, Mindanao, medyo nagsa-start as per checking with the other offices din natin in Cebu and also in Gensan. Medyo pa-start pa lang din sa ibang municipality doon. So minsan nasa may A1 pa lang and A2. So that's both for health workers and the senior citizen. So still, tuloy-tuloy pa rin naman after the A2, the government will go to A3 until such time na matapos na until the A5 na na-mention kanina. So nonetheless, this is still the good time for everybody to check their LGUs, mag-register sa ibang LGU din, especially outside NCR. May iba na hard copy or hard document yung pinapagawa sa mga citizen instead of the online registration. So still check with your LGU as to the manner of the registration, if online siya or dapat mag-fill out ng mga hard copy ng documents.
Thank you, Ms. Yvonne. Also in connection po, dun sa word na comorbidity, may nakapagbanggit din kanina while we are having lunch. In terms of comorbidity, yung UTI po ba, pasok siya doon sa definition as comorbidity?
Hindi po. Mga comorbidity katulad ng well, if you're obese, if you have asthma, heart conditions, diabetes, ganun po.
Okay. Thank you po, Doc. So I think may nangyari, may mga ganun. May nagpasa daw UTI. I'm not sure, pero kung totoo, sinasabi nila na vaccine. We're not sure kung ano yung
try na lang nila.
And then,
meron ka pang isang na-jump
yes,
then na question dito. Si Ms. Jet, you were saying something?
I-screen pa din naman sila pagdating doon.
Kaya pag
Ayun.
may comorbidity, sinasabi nila, magdadala sila either ng mga iba
Medical
health
records.
certificate or ibang pertaining to their sickness or illness. Yan.
Okay. Another question. Part din siya, connected po doon. When yung kasama natin sa office, when they had the vaccination, yung first dose, may mga nakasabayan siya. Mga kabataan. Siguro mga 18, sabihin natin, 18 to 20. So, pasok naman siya. However, pinipilit nila na part sila ng A3. Merong comorbidity. Then, upon checking nung kasama, di ba po, I think, nagpipresent ng medical certificate. Now, the medical certificate states that may ganito siya, hypertension, but it's on the same date na alam mo yung magbabarkada. And then, same date doon sa MedCert, siguro iba-ibang mga reason, diabetes or hypertension or whatsoever. Ano po ba yung process talaga once pumila ako doon sa vaccination center?
Well, kailangan dala mo yung mga supporting documents mo kung if you have mga comorbidities. Kasi examining ng ng doctor yan dun sa screening part ng vaccination. Okay.
Yung meds will do.
Yung ano pa?
Yung medical certificate.
Baka pwede po. Okay.
Here. So, yun, next question. Paano po, show natin. Ayan. Paano po kung nagka-COVID na din, naka-recover na, ilang buwan bago siya magpa-vaccine?
Ayan. Yun yung kaninang tinasol ko. Kasi before, kailangan 90 days daw. Pero nowadays, pwede na basta fully recovered na. Siguro, pakita lang niya ng latest na negative swab test siya, pwede na siya magpa-vaccine. Okay? For treated COVID patients.
Ayan, next question. Kapag show pala natin. Here. Kapag nakapag-develop na ba ng antibodies ang isang COVID positive, ilang dose na lang po ba ng vaccine ang ibibigay?
Let's see. Kasi yung sinasabi niya, natural immunity. Ang mahirap kasi sa natural immunity, you have to get sick from COVID para magkaroon ka ng natural immunity. Kaya lang we have this reinfection and mahirap magka-COVID may nag-comment niya traitor nga raw yung COVID Siguro sabihin mo batting averages 95% mild lang yan. What if mapunta ka dun sa severe type of COVID, baka yun pa yung ikamatay mo. So kaya nga meron tayong vaccination para hindi na natin hindi tayo pupunta dun sa point na magkakasakit ka ng COVID. That's why the vaccine. Okay.
Okay, may comment pero kailangang ipagamot yung nabanggit na sakit kanina. Wag na.
Katama.
Hindi ko lang kasi makita talaga kung sino yung nagko-comment. Nalagay lang is Facebook user. I'm not sure kung sino yung nag-comment. Anyway, next question. Hi sir, okay lang po ba magpa-vaccine if may allergy sa mga gamot or anesthesia?
Okay, pwede naman pero yun yung mga talagang under strict monitoring Di ba na-mention ko kanina kapag may allergy ka sa food, eggs or medications, pwede naman pero yun yung mga talagang kailangan mag-ingat and under strict monitoring. Kaya nga binibigay yung number ng kung saan nagpabakuna, kung kailangan mo ng emergency, kung magkaroon ng adverse effects. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Doc. Ito, Doc, malihis ng very slight sa vaccination. Yung mga gamot na yung mga matunog sa news ngayon like ivermectin, ano po doon? Take nyo for patients using ivermectin. Yes po.
Well, studies are still being made whether kung pwedeng gamitin yung ivermectin sa sa COVID. Kasi ang ivermectin talaga anti-parasitic for animals, especially yung mga large animals like horses, cows, okay? Kumbaga parang deworming nila yun eh. Ah, Pinag-aaralan pa hanggang ngayon yung ivermectin whether it's effective against COVID or not.
There are just two more, or actually parang three questions I think that we can still ask our speakers din. Meron yung doon sa 222 na timeline mo. Iba-iba po ba ang composition ng bawat brand ng vaccine?
Well, I would assume iba-iba yan kasi depende naman sa mga brand eh. Pero basically nandun pa rin yung, yung sinabi kong basic components, yung may antigen, may adjuvants, etc. Nandun at nandun pa rin yan. Nagkakaiba lang dun sa kung paano yung development ng vaccine, kung mRNA ba yan, okay, kung inactivated vaccine, inactivated or killed virus ba yan. Okay.
Okay. Yung parang similar dun sa pinakita rin naman dun sa presentation kanina kung at paanong strain yung vaccine na yun. Okay. And then, yung question, sir, on the booster shot. So this is something that we'll have to check in the future kung necessary pa yung booster shot for the COVID-19.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Pero more likely, magkakaroon ng booster shot yan. Kasi nga, sabi ko earlier, ang nag-ano pa lang yung Pfizer at saka Moderna na for 6 months lang yung protection na mabibigay nila. So, I'm sure nagde-develop na sila ng mga booster shots niya.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So we'll just have to wait and see. And then, I think that may isa pang question for Ms. Che. How about for swab test? Do you see it being covered by HMO in the future?
The swab test is covered as today, but it has been advised by the doctor and with symptomatic for COVID-19 illness.
Okay.
Pero if ever swab test, you will go to hospital for swab test only, it will fall under exclusion for screening test, which is not covered in our policy.
Okay. So it is included if you are for treatment.
Symptomatic, yes.
Symptomatic.
If you have symptomatic with COVID-19 and has an advice by the doctor to push through the swab test.
Oh, okay. All right. So to start off, nung treatment mo or confinement mo is on COVID-19, covered pa rin siya.
Yes,
yes. Kumbaga included na yung testing nun.
Yes. If ever you have symptoms with COVID, you must consult with the doctor, and then whatever recommendation by the doctor, if you were for swab test, you may be covered by your card, and then if after the result is positive and you need to admit, the treatment during the admission is covered also by the HMO card.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sige, ito yung best question talaga. Overall, ano po ba ang most recommended kind of vaccine?
Okay.
Or brand?
So based sa data ang pinakita ko, Moderna yung yung talagang matataas yung scores, efficacy, di ba? Ganyan. Pero kung ito parang joking aside, for Filipinos siguro yung Janssen & Janssen kasi single dose, di ba? May tayo sa mga one shot tapos na, di ba? Kaya nga nagkakaroon ng parang nahihirapan kumuha ng second dose kasi for whatever reason hindi na nagpupunta, mahina tayo sa compliance. Pero kung since minsan we don't have a choice, and sabi ko nga, it's the risk of getting the COVID infection first or getting vaccinated, mabuti nang magpabakuna ka na, whatever brand is available. Okay?
Exactly. So yun. So best vaccine, sabi rin nga, di ba, we are Filipino. We always look doon sa fastest way kung ano yung mga problem natin. Not like this pandemic, one shot will do. So we have yung Johnson and Johnson. Johnson and Johnson. Diba? Sabi nga ni Doc, kung ano yung nandyan, it's better kaysa wala kang vaccine, wala kang protection from this virus. Okay, so on behalf, syempre, ng ating cooperative, we encourage everyone to register sa campaign and drive ng ating government on the vaccination. Okay, whatever our political stand is, as long as we are one naman siguro for us to stop this pandemic. Okay, so do we still have questions?
Meron pang isa, on top doon sa ano po ba ang most recommended? Po ba na bago magpa-vaccine, pinapainom ng ivermectin?
Hindi po totoo yun. Ang ano lang siguro, magpahinga ka na mabuti, try to sleep, parang complete bed rest para at least medyo fresh ka naman pag nagpabakuna kinabukasan, ganyan. Okay?
Okay. So I think we already tackled all of the questions from our participants. Siguro a few reminders muna. Let's start with Miss Yvonne. Before we end our learning session for this afternoon.
Okay, so let's bend the curve and be part of the herd community. Also, avail of the vaccination program from your local government also. So magpa-register and check yung confirmation registration nyo so that you can get the 2 doses or kung ano mang vaccine ang available sa inyong local government. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Yvonne. Miss Che?
So yun nga, mas maigi pa din magpa-vaccine tayo para for our safety din sa lahat. Kasi kailangan talaga natin yun.
Okay, thank you. Of course, Doc.
Okay, so parang ulitin ko lang yung mga sinabi nila. Have yourself vaccinated, stay safe, and stay healthy. Okay?
Yeah. Stay healthy. Talagang pinakakailangan natin in this time of pandemic. So, thank you, Che.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Yvonne and Doc. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay. Okay. So, sabi nga nila, favorite na hashtag natin ngayon is hashtag bend the curve, get vaccinated. Okay, so kung wala naman na questions, see you on our next learning session. This has been Dave, and thank you. Stay safe, everyone.